and good afternoon. Today is Thursday, it's April the 19th, and I was going to take a quick minute today, or at least a few minutes anyway, and do my own version of a World War III update. I definitely don't speak about geopolitics pretty much ever. I don't think I've ever done this, so I figured, hey, why not? Reason being is I do watch or keep up with geopolitical things that happen in the world. Not that I particularly care too much, but it's definitely something that's always interested me. Uh, I do have a father who was a captain in the Navy for 20 years, was a flight surgeon, flew off the USS Constellation, the USS Kennedy, and a couple other carriers. So I grew up that way. So I'm not saying that's any credential for me whatsoever, but just a little bit of background on why that I even care or even watch geopolitical things these days. So, first of all, the flashpoints that we have in the world today, i.e., North Korea, i.e., Syria, i.e., Crimea, South China Sea, Iran, on and on and on and on. There's a lot of talk about World War III stemming from any of these places. Personally, I would have to tend to disagree. The reason why I think it's basically a bunch of fodder to feed everybody to have something to talk about or something to pull out their phone and look into or come up with theories on and so forth. The World War III implications, in my opinion, are fruitless unless we focus on the burgeoning South China Sea and Chinese empire, as you could call it, I guess. So Syria, for me, is really a distraction. Also, the Iranian nuclear program and the Israelis, again, that's, to me, it's a distraction. The whole ISIS thing, to me, is a distraction. I think the real flashpoint that is getting passed over, at least to the majority of media outlets, in my opinion, would be the South China Sea and the rise of China economically on the global stage, and really becoming a global player. Not that they haven't been, but their military has always been quantity over quality, meaning they can overwhelm you with numbers, but if they want to take the fight off their shores, well, how can they get their numbers elsewhere? So we can turn that as having a blue water military or not having a blue water military. So as we know that the Chinese have been projecting naval power well out into the South China Sea, have militarized islands there, and again, should we really care? You know, that's another question for another day. But in terms of the geopolitical nature of the world in which we live, if you get down to the nitty gritty and realize that no matter where you live in this world in which we live, everybody is fighting a tough battle. So for me, I find any talk of World War III relatively fruitless. I get that we have a lot of flashpoints everywhere. I just mentioned where, and there's so many more. Africa, and you name it, there's issues. But what it boils down to, I think, is all distractions from the fact that everybody in this world is really fighting their own World War III inside their own head. And sometimes the talk of weapons and blowing things up, I think it distracts people from what's going on in everybody's life, whether you live in South America, North America, Africa, wherever, Asia, Russia, it doesn't matter. Is it fun to listen to? Sure. Is it something that I think we need to lose sleep about? No. I think cooler heads will generally always prevail, at least for the most part, for the big players. I think if we look at the Russians and the meddling in the election and so forth, I mean, is it talk? Sure. Is there things we need to look at? Sure. But is it more important than raising our families? Is it more important than doing good things for good people? Is it more important than making sure our children are doing well in school, making sure our children eat, making sure our children sleep, and taking care of our health? I think if everyone were to focus on these things, health, sleep, fitness, do good things for good people, and stop focusing so much on negativity, I think that the rapid spread of social media in terms of talking about World War III would subside substantially. There's no way a leader in Russia is going to blow up the world. There's no way that the United States is going to fall into that trap. And I personally don't think that the Chinese will ever fall into that trap. I really think it is a tough world that we all live in, and we're all blinded by everything we pick up on our phones. You pick up your phone, it's negative, 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 negative. Good, positive things don't sell. So what better to give people something to talk about than World War III? Now, with that said, I guess you can understand that my projection of World War III, that it will not happen in my lifetime. It won't probably happen in your kid's lifetime. I think inevitably it has to at some point in time, but I think it's way far out in the future, and I don't think it'll necessarily take place with end of the world type weapons, maybe some cyber warfare stuff, but at the end of the day, if we talk militaries, let's be real here. The United States is the only military that can project blue water capabilities, meaning I can get my forces and I can take them to your shores very quickly. The United States is really the only credible military that can do that. So I can get an aircraft carrier or 10 of them and go park one off your shores and have enough firepower on that carrier and its supporting crew, i.e. destroyers, refilling, merchant ships, you name it. I mean, I've got a city of thousands of high-tech soldiers, high-tech equipment right off your shores within a couple of weeks, if not a whole lot sooner. So that's one thing that we have to think about when people talk about World War III is, okay, well, no, we're going to get into World War III. Well, how is it going to be fought? Because in all actuality, the United States can take it to anybody's shores relatively quickly. The opposing forces don't have that ability. So for us here in the United States, it's kind of a fruitless conversation for a conventional World War III. It's just not going to happen. And I don't think that any country such as Russia or the United States would let it happen either. We run into the whole dichotomy of good versus evil when this stuff gets tossed around on the media. But at the end of the day, I think, again, it's just people struggling to survive, people struggling to keep their power in place. I think that the flashpoints such as Syria, I think it's a very sad situation. I think what it boils down to is a lot of different militaries from all over the world: the Iranians, the Israelis, the Saudis, the U.S., the Russians, to test, even the Chinese, to test their weapons on innocent people. And I think it's really a sad thing. However, is it in anybody's interest to necessarily go over there and try to stop something that I really probably don't have that much business being there in the first place? I think the Middle East is a volatile place, but I don't think it should be in anybody's interest to solve anybody's issues. I think we should work about solving our own issues. The Iranians, they seem like good people. I mean, do we know every Iranian? I don't think so. I think we know what we're told when we pick up our phones and so forth, but I can guarantee you there's a lot of very hardworking people in Iran with some beautiful families. Likewise in Israel, likewise in Saudi Arabia, and what was projected to us is really, in my opinion, fodder to the overwhelming amount of negativity that is shot our way every single day in which we live and breathe. So again, with the United States having so much military force, no one can really battle that. I mean, they can lob some nuclear weapons over or something, but what's going to happen in return? It's just mutual destruction. I think that's the whole point of having them in the first place. The Chinese, again, they can overwhelm you with numbers, but unless we are going into their country and trying to take it over, which we would never do, I don't think it's really even worth comparing the United States military versus the Chinese military. Our pilots are trained better. Our aircraft are better. Our missile defenses are better. Our soldiers are better equipped. We have so much more technology, and I think we get lost when people say, you know, the Chinese are catching up. Well, what do you think? The U.S. is just sitting back and not proliferating new technologies? The Chinese, sure, they have a big economy, but they also have a billion plus people. So they can't, by any way, shape, or form, keep up with our proliferation. They can quantify, they can have mass quantity, but when it comes down to a conflict there, I really don't think there's going to be any type of attempted landing on any type of shore, nor do I think it would be in this lifetime or the next lifetime. A couple other flashpoints. Crimea, you know, we're told, you know, the Russians came in and invaded Crimea and so forth. No one knows the truth except those that are there, and again, there's probably some really beautiful people there that are hardworking and have wonderful families and are trying to raise their children, and unfortunately they're stuck in the middle of a crossfire of what to do and where to go. But at the end of the day, I would really think and pretty much know that there is a lot of really good people there that simply don't want to have their home destroyed or ruined or anything likewise. So I don't know really why I really made this video, except to again, just to reiterate, I watch some geopolitical stuff, namely World War III updates, yada yada, knowing that I personally don't think that will happen anytime soon, if not ever, but I still find it fun to follow. But in terms of military projection, I think if anyone thinks that the United States will fall ever, or maybe sometime in the years ahead, I mean, ancient Greece fell, ancient Rome fell, the Ottoman Empire fell, but you know, the Persian Empire fell. Yes, you still have Iran. Yes, you still have Turkey. Yes, you still have Russia. But things ebb and flow throughout history, and it's happened with 2 world wars. I think everyone has learned, at least the heads that rule all of us, or control our media outlets. I think that their heads will always be cool at the end of the day and prevail. The North Korea thing, I think, is a distraction as well. I mean, there's a 35-year-old kid there with nuclear weapons, with China basically being daddy. I think it's just another distraction. There's no worry about 1945 biplanes dropping nuclear weapons on anybody. I think, again, it's just fodder for the masses. And it just, again, a distraction to keep us from doing things beneficial to all of us. I think cigarette smoking is more of an issue to the globe, or the trash pile in the middle of the Pacific. These are things I think are much more important than fodder for the masses to talk about a possible World War III that, in my opinion, again, will never happen. It may, but I don't think it's going to be happening anytime soon, as long as the U.S., no matter who's running the show. By the way, I don't talk any type of politics in terms of like a left side or right side. I'm dead in the middle and just want to be cool. I don't talk about race. My wife's Spanish. I have Spanish/Caucasian kids, and I definitely don't talk about religion at all. I think they're all great, but I really try to be a good person and really try to do good things as much as I can. So I think that, in a nutshell, as long as we take care of our kids, as long as we stay healthy, as long as we eat well, as long as we sleep well, as long as we don't ingest junk into our bodies, I really think that the world can be a better place. So at the end of the day, I started to ramble, and again, I just wanted to do this video. Normally we were doing tennis videos, played a lot yesterday and probably 25 days straight before that. So I definitely wanted to rest the body for a little while today before we take the kids back out this afternoon. In the meantime, don't lose any sleep over World War III. It would be handled, if it ever happened, relatively quickly by the United States. I can promise you that. I know a lot of people may disagree with that, and that's your choice. But speaking from someone that was basically raised around aircraft carriers, naval aviators, military bases, and an officer, he was a captain, a retired '06. I can tell you that when you step inside of a United States aircraft carrier, much less 10 of them, you realize the massive scale and the power that these things, simply just the carriers themselves, much less the destroyers and the huge ships and so forth. But there's just so much power there, and there's so many aircraft and so many people that are trained so well. I don't think that there's any need to worry necessarily about World War III. So hey, eat good, sleep good. Don't believe too much of what you read, because most of the time it's just kind of garbage per se. Keep in touch. Hope this didn't go on too long, and maybe I'll do another one soon. But it really doesn't matter if someone shoots a missile at an empty building or what. Just keep your mind on your health, your kids if you have them. You're doing good things for other people, and I can promise you, if we can spread that around, I can promise you the world at some point should become a better place. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Sorry for rambling. Click a like below, subscribe below, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.